Trump panics as war backfires, Iran threatens his life. While Donald Trump stood in front of cameras declaring that Iran has surrendered, something very different was unfolding on the other side of the world. Iran's top leadership, far from decimated, far from broken, was issuing statements that read less like a white flag and more like a promise of unfinished business. The foreign minister, the national security chief, the president, all of them saying the same thing in different words. We are not done, Donald. We are coming for you. Two narratives, one crisis. On one side, a president insisting the enemy has cried uncle. On the other, that same enemy publicly rejecting the very concept of surrender, rallying its population, threatening retaliation in kind for the killing of their supreme leader, and warning that American soldiers and ships will never leave their crosshairs. Someone here is lying. The terrifying part is that it might be everyone. What I am about to walk you through is not just another update on the Middle East. This is the anatomy of a spiral, a moment where miscalculation collided with escalation, where propaganda from three different regimes is slamming into reality, where oil infrastructure is burning, a desalination plant has been destroyed, children were killed in a school bombing, and the Strait of Hormuz, the choke point for 20% of the world's crude oil, is grinding to a halt. And nobody in Washington appears to have planned for any of it. In the next few minutes, I am going to show you exactly what Iran's leadership is actually saying, why Trump's they surrendered narrative is crumbling in real time, and why the geopolitical world you are living in today looks nothing like the one you woke up in a week ago. Now imagine this. You have a neighbor, a powerful neighbor. One day that neighbor kicks down your front door, destroys half your house, and then stands on your lawn telling the entire neighborhood that you have surrendered. Meanwhile, you are standing in the doorway, bloodied, furious, very much not surrendering, and telling every other household on the block that if they let that guy use their driveway to come at you again, they are next. How long before the whole street turns into a war zone? Hold that thought, because that is exactly what is playing out between Washington and throne right now. Drop your answer in the comments. Is Trump's surrender claim strategy delusion, or the most dangerous kind of both? Let us rewind the clock. The Trump administration launched a massive military assault on Iran. The stated goal was decapitation, kill the Ayatollah, eliminate the top commanders, break the command structure so completely that the country would collapse from within. It was supposed to be fast, overwhelming, and decisive. The core assumption, and this is critical, was that once the leadership was gone, the whole system would fold. The Iranian people would rise up. The government would disintegrate. Trump would stand in front of cameras and declare, mission accomplished. That is not what happened, not even close. The Ayatollah was killed. Yes, Iran suffered enormous damage, but the administrative structure held. The military chain of command adapted. The political leadership survived and immediately began doing the one thing Washington apparently never gamed out, fighting back, not just militarily, but diplomatically, rhetorically, and strategically across every front simultaneously. Iran's national security leader, Ali Larijani, said it plainly. Trump got a taste of Venezuela and thought he could do it again. Now he is stuck. We are not letting him go. So let me show you three receipts, three moves that tell you everything about where this crisis actually stands versus where Trump says it stands. Receipt number one, the diplomatic counterpunch. Iran's president put out a statement directed not at the United States, but at every nation in the Middle East. The message was precise. If you are a country in this region and you stop allowing the United States to use your air bases to strike Iran, we will stop attacking you. We have no desire to wage war across the Middle East. Iran specifically appeared to address Turkey and Azerbaijan, offering what amounted to an apology for strikes that hit their territory, while making clear that any nation hosting American operations would remain a target. And then the president of Iran added one final line. Let us be clear, we reject even the thought of a surrender to the United States. Trump's response, he said, see, they have surrendered. Then he was asked what he meant and said, they need to cry uncle. Iran explicitly rejected surrender. Trump called it proof of surrender. This is not spin. This is the actual sequence of events. And it tells you something deeply troubling about how this administration is interpreting signals from the battlefield. Foreign Minister Iraqi then issued his own statement. He said the president's openness to de escalation was almost immediately killed by Trump's misinterpretation of our capabilities, determination, and intent. If Mr. Trump seeks escalation, it is precisely what our powerful armed forces have long been prepared for. Washington was not listening, and that silence is deafening. Receipt number two, the infrastructure escalation. After Iran extended that olive branch to its neighbors, the Trump administration did not pause. It escalated hard. The United States and Israel began striking major Thran oil refineries that supplied more than 50% of Iran's domestic energy. Footage from the Shahan oil depot showed an inferno that looked like something out of an apocalypse film. Oil spilling from the depot met the city's sewage system, creating a literal burning river flowing through the streets. The U.S. also struck a freshwater desalination plant on Kashim Island, cutting water supply to 30 villages. Iraqi called it a blatant and desperate crime and warned that the U.S. had set a precedent with grave consequences. And then there is the school. An elementary school in Mashhar was hit by the United States, killing approximately 150 children. Satellite imagery and intelligence briefings to Congress all point to the same conclusion. The Trump administration has not meaningfully addressed it. When you bomb a nation's water supply, energy grid, and schools, you are not breaking their will. You are forging it into something harder than it was before. That is not strategy. That is the opposite of strategy. Receipt number three, the Strait of Hormuz crisis. 20% of the world's crude oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz. Right now, it is effectively closed. Oil tankers are trapped. Insurance companies will not cover passage. Kuwait has shut down production. Qatar has shut down production, and Iran's air defense headquarters issued a statement that should make every naval planner in the Pentagon pay attention. They said they welcomed the United States trying to escort oil tankers through the strait, adding that Iranian forces are waiting. Entry may be on the surface, they said, but the end will be at the bottom of the Persian Sea. Trump's answer was to float U.S. naval escorts for the stranded tankers. But even with warships, the shipping companies are refusing. We are not going to die transiting the strait, they said. You can offer us insurance, you can offer us escorts. We are not moving. The global energy choke point that experts warned about for decades is now a lived reality, and the administration that created this crisis apparently never considered it as a possibility. If this story is connecting dots you have not seen assembled anywhere else, you are already ahead of most people watching this unfold. Hit subscribe right now. This is evolving faster than any single outlet can track, and you need to be here when the next piece drops. Now, let me show you the contrast that defines this entire crisis. The Trump administration went into Iran the way it approaches everything: maximum force, maximum volume, minimum planning, decapitate the leadership, declare victory on camera, move to the next news cycle. It is the blunt, clears throat instrument approach to geopolitics, shock and awe, without a data strategy. And for about 48 hours, it looked like it might work. The Ayatollah was dead. The strikes were overwhelming. Trump was telling the world Iran has been decimated. But here is what the blunt instrument missed entirely. Iran's system was designed for exactly this scenario. Decades of preparation for a decapitation attempt, distributed command structures, redundant leadership chains, a population that, whatever its grievances with the Islamic Republic, was never going to rally behind the country that just bombed their children's school and set their cities on fire. Larjani went on camera and said, "We will not let him go unpunished. He has martyred our people. More than 1,000 civilians are dead. This is not a simple matter. We will not let it go until we retaliate in kind." And this is where the miscalculation becomes catastrophic. Trump needed a quick knockout. He did not get one. Iran needed time and international sympathy. They are getting both. Every bombed water plant, every burning refinery, every image of dead children is producing the exact opposite of what Washington intended. It is creating unprecedented unity inside Iran. Even Iranians who once protested against the Ayatollah, who wanted reform, who dreamed of a different political system, are now rallying behind the country against Trump and Netanyahu. The blunt instrument did not shatter Iran's resolve, it welded it together. Meanwhile, the individuals who brokered this catastrophe remain staggering in their unsuitability. Steve Witko and Jared Kushner were somehow conducting the high level mediations that preceded this war. These are the architects of a conflict destroying American standing and American treasure. Let that register. So, what does this actually mean for you? If you drive a car, the price at the pump is about to get significantly worse. Crude oil prices are surging. The Strait of Hormuz's closure is not a hypothetical, it is happening now. And Trump's attempt to offset the damage by lifting sanctions on Russian oil, letting Putin flood the market, has not brought prices down. It has enriched Russia's war machine. While costs continue climbing, that Russian oil revenue goes directly into weapons used against Ukraine. The same Ukraine the United States is now asking for help in shooting down Iranian drones and ballistic missiles. The contradictions are not subtle. If you care about regional stability, the entire Middle East is fracturing. The Iraqi parliament held death to America chants on the floor. The Emir of Qatar told Trump the escalation will have serious repercussions on international security. Dubai and Doha, cities that spent decades building reputations as safe havens for global investment, are watching that reputation disintegrate as Iranian strikes land near both. Every Gulf state that invested in Trump, every deal, every financial arrangement, all of it is worthless now. Trump did to them exactly what he has done to every business partner, every investor, every creditor in his career. He took their money and left them holding the wreckage. Once these nations restructure their security posture around new partners and new assumptions, they do not restructure back just because the politics cool down. The trust follows the new routes and it does not come home. Let me give you three scenarios for where this goes from here. Scenario one, manage de escalation. Back channel diplomacy produces a face saving arrangement. Iran agrees to stop striking Gulf neighbors. The U.S. quietly scales back strikes on civilian infrastructure. Some kind of ceasefire framework emerges, mediated perhaps by Qatar or Turkey. But even in this best case, the structural damage is permanent. The Strait of Hormuz demonstrated its vulnerability. Gulf states learned they cannot rely on Washington. Supply chains have already begun rerouting. The old architecture does not reassemble just because the shooting stops. Scenario two, regional realignment. Other Middle Eastern and global South nations begin building security and economic arrangements that explicitly hedge against the United States. Iran's diplomatic outreach to its neighbors gains traction. Countries that once hosted American bases quietly restrict access. A new regional security framework starts forming, one where Washington is still powerful but no longer the unquestioned center. The monopoly on influence fractures into something multipolar, messy, and irreversible. Scenario three, full escalation. This is the one nobody wants to name out loud. Iran makes good on Larijani's promise and retaliates in kind for the Ayatollah's killing. That could mean a strike on American leadership, American assets, or American soil. The U.S. responds with even greater force. The Strait of Hormuz goes from restricted to fully militarized. Oil hits $200 a barrel. Global recession. Sectarian conflicts across Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen that were held together by threads all ignite simultaneously, and a war that was supposed to be fast and decisive becomes the exact quagmire that 18 U.S. intelligence agencies already predicted it would be. Iran's foreign minister made precisely this point. He said Trump's own National Intelligence Council determined that war in Iran is destined to fail. He said he warned Trump's envoys that war would not improve the bargaining position. Were those warnings conveyed? The relationship between the United States and the Middle East will never look the same after this. Even if Trump leaves office tomorrow, the lesson has been learned by every government watching. You never place your entire strategic future in the hands of one unpredictable actor. Once alternatives are built, once trust is incinerated, once the images of burning schools and rivers of fire are seared into a nation's memory, you do not return to the old normal. Normal left the building a long time ago. You have the Trump regime full of liars. The Netanyahu regime full of liars, the Iranian regime also full of liars. Three brutal power structures, each responsible for enormous suffering, each spinning furiously. America once led the international community through crisis like this, flawed as it was. At this point, the United States has not just ceded the moral high ground, it has, to borrow a word from the Trump regime itself, decimated it. So I will leave you with this. Did Trump decimate Iran or did he decimate America's last remaining credibility in the region? Is this strength or is this the most expensive miscalculation in modern military history? And when Laura Johnny says, we will not let him go unpunished and we will retaliate in kind, is that bluster? Or is that the promise of a nation that just lost its supreme leader and over 1,000 civilians? Drop your answers in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe because the next chapter of this story, the Strait of Form standoff, the oil price explosion, the congressional briefings on what actually happened in Masher, is coming fast. This story is not slowing down. Do not look away. This content is commentary and analysis for formational purposes only. It does not constitute financial, legal, or geopolitical advice. Consult qualified experts before making any decisions based on the events discussed.